Hi guys, welcome to another video and welcome to what is most definitely not going to be a Sony A7C review. This is billed as the world's smallest full frame camera with a viewfinder, and the viewfinder bit's quite important because it is the world's smallest full frame camera with a viewfinder. But the problem is the viewfinder is absolutely diddy. Now I don't know if you can actually see that. It's, well, when I took it out of the box I looked at it and thought that's unworkable, and I very nearly put it back in the box and sent it away. But then curiosity got the better of me and I actually tried it, and you know what, the viewfinder is ridiculously small, but it's workable, it's okay. Now I've got this camera with a view of replacing the Olympus OMD EM5 Mark III with it. Basically I'm trying to keep my life simple. I want to use one system. I've decided to move away from Nikon. One thing or the other, perhaps I'll go into that in another video, perhaps I won't. So to cut a long story short, I've switched to Sony. So that means I have to have two Sony bodies for my commercial work. Now I've got the A7R Mark III and I needed a second body to go along with it. Now I've got a soft spot for rangefinder style cameras because it's not a rangefinder camera, but it's the offset viewfinder, and the smaller body was really appealing to me. And the reason being is that I shoot a lot of weddings and I shoot a lot of candid stuff at weddings. And I found with my Nikon, with the Z6 Mark II and the 35 1.8 lens on, that basically people noticed me and it was very hard to be discreet. Now this body, coupled with the Samyang 35mm 1.8 lens, which I think cost me like 350 quid, and honestly, it's a belter of a lens. Nobody notices you. I did a wedding last week and honestly, nobody noticed. It was just amazing. So that's a win. So the question is, do I need this as well? Which is the OMD EM5 Mark III. Is it smaller? Well, let's have a look. That's the two side by side. Honestly, weight-wise, size-wise, there's not much in it. In hand, this probably feels a bit better. It's a bit thinner. It feels like a smaller camera when you're carrying it, even though in weight and size it actually isn't. This is quite a little chunky little fellow, but you know, size-wise it's great. And if I put the kit lens on, honestly, it's smaller than the Micro Four Thirds OMD EM5 Mark III. So this brings you to the question of, do you need full frame? And honestly, it's a bit of a naff question because the reality is that you probably don't until you do. And that's going to sound really odd. But for landscapes, really, either or. You're going to get by with either or. To put that test into theory, what I did is I took the A7 Mark III out and I took the OMD EM5 Mark III out as well. And I went up to the hills and I shot a simple comparison shot. And I'm going to go straight over to that now. Of course, it's impossible to really evaluate the performance of a certain camera system by one shot. You know, the reality is if you're comparing two camera systems, you need to shoot in different scenarios. And I think this is the problem with the whole argument for full frame. You know, in some situations, any camera will do the job. But when the light gets trickier, you know, you perhaps will need full frame. You know, low light is one I can think of immediately. Anyway, I've set the tripod up. I'm going to photograph the trees behind me. It's quite a simple scene. The light's quite nice. It's quite consistent. I would expect both cameras to have ample detail in the final shots. And really, I can't expect there to be any dramas here, really. I think it'll be pretty straightforward. So as you can see, really, there's not much difference. But that was good light. But I was actually comparing a high megapixel body to a 20 megapixel Micro Four Thirds camera. And the fact that there was very little difference in the final output makes you realise that actually there's not that much difference between full frame and Micro Four Thirds in those sort of scenarios. But, you know, there's more to the camera than actually the final output, and a lot of it's actual usability. Now it's a fun camera to use, and I've just taken a few shots walking around. I'm at the coast in Northumberland, and you know, and honestly with the inbuilt image stabilization and this little 35mm lens on, I was able to get a bit creative, and it was, you know, it was a very spontaneous shooting process which I really enjoy. But that's not to say I couldn't do that with this, and you know, because I could. But one other thought for me, perhaps getting rid of this and keeping this, is for video. So to demonstrate that better, I'm now going to go meet up with Filmman Dave, and I'm going to help him shoot one of his videos where he's going to be reviewing some head torches, which is a very low light situation. And I'm going to rig this up so it actually starts to look a little bit more like a video camera, and let's see how it performs in that sort of scenario.
So welcome to this video. What I have here is what I consider to be the A-list of headlamps, or head torches as we call them in the UK.
Well, hopefully you'll agree that the Sony A7 did a remarkably good job in a low light filming situation. You know, it was properly dark, the ISO was through the roof. I was using the Samyang 35mm 1.8 lens on it, and honestly I didn't really have any issues, and the quality looks great. And I'm going to link to Filmman Dave's video in the description so you can watch the whole thing and you can gauge the quality yourself. Now, if you watched last week's video, which was the morph video, I mentioned that I was using a full frame body with a 35mm 1.8 lens. Well, lo and behold, it was this little baby. It was the Sony A7C with the Samyang 35 1.8. And honestly, I think some of the shots I wouldn't have got if I'd have taken my big DSLR. Simply being because this little camera did fit in my pocket. I could pull it out. I was in shopping centres for some of the shots, and I think security would come and move me along if I'd started putting out a DSLR taking shots. But with a little Sony, I just pulled out my pocket, took the shots, moved on to the next location, and nobody blinked an eye, you know, so that was great for that. But what's it like on a tripod? Well, here I've rigged it up with the Tamron 17-28 2.8, so that's quite a fast zoom lens we've got going on there. And I'm loving the image quality I'm getting for this combination. I've just taken some early morning shots, and I love the look of the files, the way this camera renders. I don't know what it is. There's just something about it which feels quite organic to me. And it's all down to personal preference, and a lot of this is really. But, you know, I have absolutely no doubt at all that the image quality from this camera is fantastic. And it's more than suitable for my requirements, and that's really all I ask for in a camera. So far it's ticking a lot of boxes. It's small, it's fairly light, image quality is spot on, it's full frame, which is not the be all and end all, but I know I could take this up the hills, and if I wanted to shoot astro I could take this combination with a nice 2.8 lens, a lot of lighting, high ISO performance is very good. And that's something that the Micro Four Thirds system wouldn't have done for me. And of course, it acts as a backup for my commercial work. So really, it's a great camera. Now, if we look at the actual design of the camera, it's very minimalistic in the way it's designed, and I really like that. I like the fact that I can flip the screen round and have it just as a normal LCD on the back, or I can actually close it off and not look at the back, so not spend loads of time actually chimping and looking at shots, and I really like that. The EVF is small, the EVF is crazy small, but honestly, apart from if you have side lights coming in, which can cause a bit of an issue because of the lack of an eye cup, apart from that, I really, the EVF's fine. I don't really worry too much about it. And it just, you know, it does what I need, you know. So even on a tripod, there's enough weight there to feel substantial, and it's ticking the boxes. Now, there are two things missing on this little camera that I do wish it had. They're not deal breakers, but they would be nice. First up would be a joystick to control the focusing point. Now, you can use the pad at the back, and you can also set the screen up so you can sort of use your thumb and move it while looking for the viewfinder, sort of like that, which works. Doesn't work very well with gloves, which is a bit of an issue if you're outdoors. And finally, I wish I had 2 card slots, simply for that little bit of security when shooting sort of like paid jobs. You know, I'm lucky, I've never ever had an SD card fail on me. I use good cards, I look after them, so it doesn't worry me that much. But you know, it's this like niggling thought in the back of your head. Well, I suppose the answer is to keep changing cards regularly if you're shooting something important, or to keep backing up on the go, you know. As I say, it's not the be all and end all, but it would be a nice little bit of insurance. But apart from that, great camera, I love it. Definitely keeper for me. It looks like I'm now fully Sony. I'm using the Sony ZV-1 to do most of my recording for this sort of thing. I use this if I'm doing sort of client videos, and I'll use my Sony A7C if I'm doing like sort of paid jobs, really, with this as the backup. So yeah, all in all, great camera, highly recommended, but this is not a camera review. Right, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you'd like to see more stuff like this, please do consider subscribing. And if you've liked it, press the like button. And hopefully I'll see you in another video. And until then, thanks a lot for watching and goodbye.